Talofalava, this is Pacific Waves from RNZ Pacific. I'm Susana Suisuiki. Coming up, a Māori academic says it's time for a church to meet its destiny. Also,
do the right thing, have us listed with the United Nations and have a true act of self-determination and do what the people actually really and truly want.
Norfolk Island's ongoing quest to return to self-government, and
we don't normally play these high levels, so we kind of look forward to it.
Pacific women's soccer team gear up for the Four Nations tournament. Destiny Church members who stormed a children's event on Saturday, hosted by a drag king, have been widely condemned for their actions, including by Auckland Council and New Zealand Prime Minister Christopher Luxon. The children's event on Saturday was part of Auckland's Pride Festival, but was cancelled when about 50 protesters barged their way into the Te Aratu Library and wouldn't leave. According to the Destiny Church website, they claim to lead the largest Māori and Pacific Island church movement in New Zealand. I spoke to Māori academic Dr. Emi Rakete from the University of Auckland, who says it's time to put a stop to Destiny Church once and for all. Emi, why do you think Māori and Pacific people continue to flock to this church? It's not just vulnerable people. There's a video that's just circulated online where a Pacific radio host was present at Te Aratu, as well as a primary school teacher. What makes this movement attractive?
It's not. Destiny Church is not attractive to Māori and Pacific people. They have very, very low numbers in relation to the entire population. In the same way as, I work with a German here, and she's a lovely person. I wouldn't say that Nazism is like an intrinsic tendency of German people. What Destiny Church does is it aggressively targets and recruits from a population that's primarily Māori and Pacific. But Māori and Pacific people hate Destiny Church for the most part, revile them. Brian Tamaki has been dragged every time he tries to talk on social media about, for instance, his love for the Zionist genocide being perpetrated in Gaza, because Māori and Pacific people share very few ideas or beliefs in common with Destiny Church. Destiny Church's ideology comes from the West. They're an extremist Pentecostal Christian denomination. That's certainly not an ideological lineage that has any roots in the Pacific or in Aotearoa. It's an imported ideology, more specific even than just the importation of Christianity to this part of the world. It's a specifically American form of religious fundamentalism. Tamaki has modelled Destiny Church on some of the far-right Christian fundamentalist groups who allied themselves with the neoliberal movement under Ronald Reagan, for instance. None of this is organic, and none of this comes from Māori Pacific people. That's not us. But Destiny Church is able to very successfully recruit Māori Pacific people because they work hard to meet people's real needs. And that's why Destiny has been so persistent and why it's so dangerous. Because people do have real needs. In this country, for a long time, the state was the guarantor of people's social conditions. The state built housing and gave it to people so that they had a place to live. The state ensured, as a matter of policy, that we had zero unemployment in this country for 50 years, between 1935 and the mid-80s. The state ensured that people had benefits that were healthy enough to live on, and to live not just on rice and beans every night, but to live a fully dignified human life. The rich took that away from us in the mid-1980s so that they could give themselves tax cuts, buy palaces in Emuera, and try to pretend that the rest of the country didn't exist. And Destiny Church steps into this toxic gap that's been opened up by the neoliberal politics that have continued to reign in this country, and they meet people's needs. If you look on Destiny Church's social media right now, you will see Destiny Church volunteers taking food parcels out to South Auckland. You will see them sending social workers to support people in court. You will see Destiny Church doing things that people really need. And it's dangerous because then they ask them to come along, to sign up, to buy into the belief system, and then to brutalize gay people in pursuit of the church's interests. That's what we need to bring to a stop.
You've just outlined the two approaches that you want to see to stop the Destiny Church movement, but what other approaches do you think will be appropriate to make our queer community in Aotearoa feel more safer?
We need as queer people, as people who love queer people, we need not to be intimidated. Destiny Church has relied on the possibility that they will engage in violence to silence us and to drive us out of public life. But if we turn and retreat and hide to keep ourselves safe, we hand the entire future of this country over to Brian Tamaki and the people who follow him. We tell them that they have the right to veto gay existence in public in this country. And I refuse to go back into the closet. We fought for decades in this country. We fought for decades in this country for gay sex not to be a criminal act. I refuse to go back into the era where we needed to be ashamed of who we are and to hide out away from people because they had small mind and little hearts. No one wants that. A handful of weird cultists want that. Some self-appointed multimillionaire apostle with really, really badly bladed eyebrows wants that. But ordinary New Zealanders don't. And we can show that we don't want that by turning out to the Defining Destiny Day of Queer Power this Sunday in Albert Park at 2 p.m. to show that we don't care and we're not going anywhere.
And through all of this, how are you feeling?
I mean, no gay person in the country feels good right now, right? Everyone is worried. Everyone is scared. Everyone is angry. But we have a plan now. We aren't alone. We aren't individuals. We are part of a collective. We are part of a movement. And we know what we need to do. So I'm feeling good. I know what needs to be done. And I'm trying to get it done. I think all of us should be trying to get it done.
One of the Pacific territories participating at this week's Pacific Islands Political Studies Association meeting in Wellington is Norfolk Island. Groups such as the Norfolk Island People for Democracy have been at loggerheads with the Australian federal government since 2015, when Canberra assumed direct control over an island that had largely managed its own affairs since 1979. The Norfolk Island population is built upon the Pitcairn Islanders, who moved to the island in the 1850s, and they have ever since retained their sense of independence from the Australian mainland. Don Wiseman spoke with two of the people representing Norfolk Island, Rick Robinson and Peter Christian Bailey.
Well, let's go back then. 10 years ago, Norfolk Island lost its semi-autonomous status. It lost it because its economy was in the poo, wasn't it?
Well, yes and no. We had assets there that were worth many more times than the 3.8 million that they say we needed to get out of the doldrums. Been nothing but pressure ever since the 1979 Act came into being for making life awkward for the so-called self-government of Norfolk Island.
Because this whole idea of self-government just didn't sit well in Canberra.
Oh no, it was abhorrent to them. The only reason that the Attorney-General at the time, Ellicott, gave us this so-called self-government was to stall off the United Nations from looking at it. Even in 1995, the Commonwealth Government Directory for the department said enhance the Commonwealth sovereignty in the external territories. So they've been plugging for a long while.
Since Australia took far more direct control, organisations like yours, your People for Democracy,
Rick and myself are here representing a group called the Norfolk Island People for Democracy. It's probably the largest group on the island. We've got 1,300 registered supporters, and we believe we are aware that we probably have a very large mandate which represents the wishes of the people of Norfolk Island. Our ultimate goal is to seek self-determination, and we obviously are pushing a few different forums in which we can achieve this. So obviously we've got the United Nations petition. We've got 2 United Nations petitions burning away at the moment. One is through the Decolonisation Committee and the other is through the Human Rights Council, which is a complaint in regards to our rights. Our human rights have been taken away.
Well, you've had these in front of the UN for some time, and progress hasn't been great. So,
as you know, the bureaucracy of the UN is a very slow-moving machine, and at the UN level, it's obviously a very political playing field as well. So it's a lot of, you scratch my back, we'll scratch yours. So it's a lot of getting the necessary political clout to move the wheels of the UN more quickly and in our favour.
if Let's say Norfolk Island got this independence.
Well, I wouldn't technically say that it's independence we are seeking. So Norfolk Island, what we're in effect, our policy is we're seeking a relationship called free association with Australia. So that basically entails we find what our areas of mutual interest are, and we act on them. We negotiate from a place of equals, not from a place of subservience. So this free association is similar to the model that New Zealand has with Niue and the Cook Islands, and also you have other relationships similar to that, which are the Micronesian territories such as Palau.
Why should you get this sort of status when there are other parts of Australia, like, for instance, all those islands in the Indian Ocean, that don't have that sort of status?
So we would completely support what you're referring to are the Indian Ocean territories, so they have a very similar status to us. So technically we've got to be speaking from a place of truth with the Australian government. They've got to recognise what our actual true legal status actually is and what our rights are. Like Norfolk was declared a distinct and separate settlement through order in council, through an act of the Imperial government back in 1855, and was created as a distinct and separate settlement. So in effect, the Crown, they have the right to change our administering terms, but not the right to change our constitutional status. So in effect, we wish to have our rights, and as you're referring to, the Cocos and Christmas Islands have got the same constitutional status as us, as being an external territory under the administration of Australia, and we just would like to see our rights as more in line with our status.
To what extent, since the removal of the semi-autonomy in 2015, have your rights been impinged?
Ever since the 1913 Norfolk Island Act, we have had only laws that specifically applied, Commonwealth laws applied to us, that specifically applied to us. No other Commonwealth laws were to apply unless negotiated with the various councils and legislatures right up until they kicked us out, basically. So if we had all the Commonwealth laws applying to us like they have got to us now, they're applying all Commonwealth laws. It's taken away any semblance of separate and distinct situation. The Cocos Keeling Islands unfortunately had a referendum on their status of dependency back in 74, I think it was, and they had 17 lines on the wonders of independence for Cocos Islands, 19 lines on independence with free association, and a page and a half on the wonders of integration with Australia. And 60% of the people at the time were illiterate, so naturally they thought, oh, look at all the goods coming from Australia.
So that was material prepared by Canberra.
Oh, yes. Yeah. They have now almost 100% unemployment up there too.
Well, let's talk about Norfolk. What's happened? Norfolk was once, not that long ago, it was a thriving economy. So what's the situation right now?
We've got more empty shops ever since they brought in all their legislation about work. We had no one on our dole in 2015. Now apparently there's 150 people on the dole. It's that sort of thing where they've made it so hard for businesses to keep going that they just can't afford to keep it.
Although, Pete, you were saying your rental car business is doing famously.
Well, there's obviously sectors of the community of the island that are doing well, but me personally, I'm not coming from this from an economic perspective. I'm coming from this from a cultural perspective, and this is more the fact that we have a right to determine our own future. And we, as Rick was stating before, that in 2015 what actually happened was that we had all our democratic rights removed, self-government was removed, and it was replaced with a regional council. So what that in effect meant that anything at a state level or a federal level was removed. We basically run through a department, the Department of Infrastructure, which is an Australian government department, so we have no state level representation and we have very minimal federal level representation. So what's actually happened, we've been lumped into the seat of Bean for federal purposes, so we are something like 1,000 electors in an electorate of about 60,000 people. So at a federal level we have very minor representation, and at a state level we have absolutely no say over the services that affect us, that are administered, things such as health and education. Yes. So a lot of people may say that a solution to that would be to completely integrate into Australia. We don't want that. We want to have our own autonomy, and we want to have our own rights restored. As we say, we are an ethnically and culturally distinct people. We're from an Anglo-Polynesian descent, and we consider ourselves Norfolk Islanders first and foremost.
Both the Solomon Island and Vanuatu women's soccer teams are excited to be competing in this week's second edition of the Pacific Oz Sports Four Nations tournament in Canberra. Proudly supported by the Australian government through the Pacific Oz Sports program, this tournament brings together the Oceania Football Confederation and the Asian Football Confederation for the first time. Elias Atora has the story.
New Vanuatu player Rita Solomon says they are privileged to be part of the tournament, especially when they do not have a local women's league that would assist teams preparing for national commitments. She says they will soak up a lot of learnings as they prepare for the OFC Women's Nations Championship in Fiji, scheduled for June.
Most of the girls in the team, it's like the first appearance in the national team. And playing against Australia and Thailand is a privilege because we don't normally play these high levels, so we kind of look forward to it. Because back in Vanuatu we don't have women's league, and for this tournament we're using this as like preparation games for our upcoming tournament, which will be in Fiji in June.
Solomon says they look forward to meeting the Australian team at the event, considering the hosts have a lot more competition for players at the different levels of the game.
It's kind of like a privilege because some of us will be the first time playing the Australian team, and since Australia is no longer in the Oceania, like we normally play New Zealand but not Australia, so it's kind of like another level ahead of us. So it's kind of like we'll take as an opportunity for us to learn from whatever challenges we face.
Speaking on behalf of the Solomon Islands national team, Claudia Votu says the event will give them the opportunity to prove themselves.
We're Solomon Island. We can also do it. We can do it. We can play, yeah. Girls can also play football, yeah, to showcase that, yeah, to improve and also to learn. We're so grateful for this opportunity, really. Oh, we were all excited. Like, we can't wait to be here again, yeah, especially to come and have a few matches with the other team.
Votu says they want to improve and are grateful that they have been included in the Four Nations event.
Yeah, that was on our goal. We hope that we can improve from last year from where we've been, even though there are other teams that we are yet to compete against that we're going to experience, especially during our first game. That's a new team and a new challenge, and we're looking forward to it. Yeah, we are grateful to be here.
Matches will be played at the Viking Park in Canberra, with the two national teams going head-to-head in a Melanesian showdown on 25th February, the last day of the tournament.
That's Pacific Waves for today. For all episodes, head over to rnz.co.nz/Pacific. We're also on Spotify, Apple and iHeartRadio. From myself and the RNZ Pacific team, tō whā soifua.